the WWII tree crop that outearned corn every year. Why did they make farmers forget it? During World War II, food wasn't just scarce, it was strategic. Governments searched desperately for crops that could grow fast, survive neglect, and produce massive yields without draining fertilizer, fuel, or labor. Among those solutions was a remarkable tree crop that consistently outperformed corn in total usable output per acre. It fed livestock, supported human nutrition, rebuilt soils, and regenerated itself year after year. Then, almost overnight, it vanished from mainstream farming. This is the forgotten story of the mulberry tree, a wartime agricultural powerhouse quietly erased from modern food systems. Why did World War II force radical farming experiments? By the early 1940s, global agriculture was in crisis. Nitrogen fertilizer factories were redirected to explosives, diesel was rationed, farm laborers were sent to the front lines. Corn, America's staple crop, suddenly became expensive, fragile, and resource-hungry. Governments needed crops that could, grow without annual replanting, thrive on poor soil, produce food and animal feed, and deliver high calories or protein per acre. Tree crops fit this profile perfectly, and mulberry stood above the rest. Mulberry trees had been cultivated for thousands of years in Asia and Europe, primarily for silkworm production, but during World War II, agronomists rediscovered a shocking fact: mulberry leaf yield per acre could actually exceed corn's total biomass, without plowing, fertilizer, or irrigation. Here's why mulberry outperformed corn. Mature mulberry trees can be harvested multiple times per year, producing tons of protein-rich leaves. Once planted, mulberries produce for 50 to 100 years. No tilling, minimal pruning, zero annual seed costs. Mulberries really are low maintenance. Plus, mulberry thrives where corn fails, thanks to its drought and heat tolerance. Studies from wartime Europe and Asia showed mulberry leaf protein yields rivaled soybeans, and beat corn as animal feed when measured across multiple harvests. Mulberry wasn't just theoretical, it was actively deployed. First, as livestock feed. Cattle, goats, pigs, rabbits, and poultry all thrive on mulberry leaves. Farmers reported faster weight gain and better milk production compared to corn silage. Second, as emergency human food. In famine zones, dried mulberry leaves were ground into flour, added to bread, soups, and porridges. The leaves are rich in calcium, iron, antioxidants, and complete amino acids. Third, for silkworm production. Silk was essential for parachutes, maps, sutures, and insulation. Mulberry leaves were the only food silkworms could eat, making the tree militarily valuable. And finally, for soil restoration. Mulberry roots stabilize soil, reduce erosion, and pull nutrients from deep underground, reviving exhausted farmland damaged by overcropping. So, why did mulberry disappear after the war? Well, the answer isn't biology, it's economics. After World War II, governments really pivoted toward industrial agriculture. Corn, fit perfectly into this new system. Annual seed sales, heavy fertilizer dependency, mechanized harvesting, government subsidies, and of course, corporate control. Mulberry actually threatened that model. Once you planted it, farmers didn't need to buy seed every single year. It didn't require chemical fertilizer. And honestly, it didn't fit easily into large-scale mechanization. Most importantly, it made farmers independent. By the 1950s, agricultural colleges had stopped teaching tree fodder systems, and extension programs pushed corn and soy monocultures. Mulberry was rebranded as obsolete or primitive, not because it failed, but because it succeeded too well. The yield comparison that changed everything: when researchers finally compared total usable output over time, mulberry really stunned economists. Corn had a high yield, sure, but only one harvest per year, with heavy inputs and soil depletion. Mulberry, on the other hand, gave multiple harvests per year, needed minimal inputs, and actually improved soil health. Over a 10-year period, mulberry produced more feed, more protein, and more total biomass per acre than corn, especially on marginal land. So, that data was quietly shelved, With climate instability, fertilizer shortages, and, rising food costs, farmers are revisiting those World War II-era solutions. These days, modern permaculture systems are actually using mulberry for things like regenerative livestock feed, climate-resilient agroforestry, low-cost protein production, and, well, even carbon sequestration. What was once labeled as forgotten is suddenly, looking kind of inevitable. Mulberry didn't disappear because it failed. Nope. It disappeared because it couldn't be patented, didn't require yearly purchases, reduced dependence on corporations, and, honestly, empowered small farmers. In a post-war world obsessed with scale and control, a self-renewing tree that out-earned corn every single year was a problem, not a solution.